you just said.
Very good. We love him highly. Stand by me. Your talk is sound.
Oh yeah.
The man is agreeable. Not, are you agreeable?
Yes.
He's the most agreeable man. He understood Yoruba and he pronounced it. I know. He pronounced it as I do. I said Yoruba. Jollof rice is not from there. Don't let any Nigerian fool you. The word jollof is a Wolof word. Wolof is the national language of content. Help me out. Where's the what's the why man like that? Listen, don't make you from yard. You only have to know something about yard, you know. Never go all over the place, you know. You can't just say me have to be from yard and you left it so. No, sir.
I try to learn, that's why I feel we want to learn about
Eddie Grant. I wanted to talk about this over there. This is, but maybe this is getting a little too dry. Get it? Dry desertification.
Yeah,
See what I did there? You see what I did there? No, you gotta. I brought you as my cheerleader. You gotta be on that board.
Yeah,
You're
that
my
was an excellent
sidekick.
joke.
You gotta
Yeah.
be on.
Let's give him a hand.
Exactly. He's
Let's
on
give
the
him a
board.
hand.
You see what I did there? Maybe this subject is. I can't do it twice. So content. Yeah, so. Who tell you? Bien longtemps pas ouais où? Attends, ou maïe, yon Jean TV là. Ou maïe.
Oui, maman.
Attends, combien de femmes actuellement? Combien de femmes actuellement? Gambia?
Yon tout seul.
Alhamdulillah.
Yon tout seul.
Keep it simple.
Oui.
Keep it simple. Now,
Danjuma, at some point, can I ask
why do you
a-
leave? Let him not go.
At some point,
Shall he go?
I don't want to interrupt you when
I
you're about to
cannot
give a
allow
nice
it. You
presentation.
desire to leave.
But at some point,
Do
can I
not
ask
advertise
you?
any product placement like that.
Can I ask you about the BACT at some point?
The what? Salam alaikum.
The BACT.
If I catch you alienating my side from their culture, I will hunt you down.
No change in culture. No change in culture.
Absolutely. That's how we do it. We got to do it like that.
Yes.
This is my worry. Today I was going to talk about this across there
Wow.
and bring it to the situation where Islam, they're creating jihadism
Yes.
versus evangelism in Africa. Maybe some of you all here have heard me talk about the Hippo Trench that is being carved across Africa. Basically, the root problem is what these people are discussing, or what David Attenborough has been discussing about global warming in Africa. What we are experiencing at the coal face is desertification, leading to conflicts between herders and farmers.
Request
Why
that my
does he
video
interrupt?
get delisted.
I despaired.
Do that, it's okay.
We're having a side conversation.
And the other ones that like
Is that
are
the
on that
usual
Google
thing?
search that you
No, I'm
can
gonna have a
search
side
and ask them to be
conversation.
delisted.
While they have side conversation.
Maybe
Oh,
many fans
y'all,
who
finish,
don't
y'all,
like
y'all
the
finish, y'all finish it because you know y'all cut my wisdom.
Sorry, I didn't mean to
So
interrupt
I was
you.
gonna have a side
Sorry.
conversation. No, we're gonna take them one side and you do that, right? And then you come back to me because I need you here
Okay,
with
you
your
need
cowboy
me.
hat.
Okay.
Because y'all evangelists with your cowboy hats are the problem. Salva
What do you-
Kiir,
what do you think I
Salva Kiir
evangelize?
is wearing a cowboy hat. You're wearing Museveni, the president of Uganda, another dictator, is wearing a cowboy hat. And for a while, that good luck Jonathan, happy to see him go and gone, of Nigeria, was wearing a cowboy hat. And it tells me something.
What does it tell you?
It tells you where you follow the money that's coming to them in return. If you take Uganda, it's meddling in eastern Congo for coltan, tantalite, uranium, cobalt, all those minerals in eastern Congo, for which these guys are allowed to stay in power. And part of the transaction is evangelism. That's why they wear these cowboy hats. You see, the money tells you it comes from Texas. I know
Yeah,
this.
but
There's not a tax on that. You're gonna
but
interrupt.
this
You're gonna
hat-
interrupt the
I
whole
think you're
time?
making a slight mistake,
Yeah?
Sheikh. I don't want you to continue
I know
making a
where- I
mistake.
know where the hat comes from. I'm using the hat as a term of art to bring it into the conversation.
You're speaking
And
figuratively.
My talk is
not
always
literally.
my talk is always like that. I use it as a
okay,
term of
that's
art
fine.
to bring
Okay.
it in. Hats like that. When you see African leaders wearing hats like that, they have an evangelical agenda I don't mind that. Believe what you want. But don't be carting off Africa's minerals by the wheelbarrow out of the DRC through Uganda and Rwanda. I'm speaking to Paul Kagame and his wife Janet too. I'm speaking to them at the same time. Carting off the what now? Rwanda is doing okay. Has the largest representation of women in parliament in Africa. So that's a good luck story. It did not come just like that. A lot of money was pumped into Rwanda as a guilt compensation for not having sooner intervened to stop the Rwandese genocide. So all of these things are... You're going to go sidekick? All right, sidekick.
Yeah, you can find out.
Nice to use your hat.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Now, that's all I'm trying to say about this thing. When we talk about this, desertification, these things are interlinked. We have exploitative oppressors in our countries ruling for far too long. They're in power for far too long. They're in power because they have been allowed to remain in power at a price, at an exploitative price. Sometimes we allow it because we have this sense that they're the ones who brought independence, like Bouteflika. Like Bouteflika. I saw your flag, I thought I'd bring that up. It's just gone. But the reason we keep the ANC in power in South Africa, and now we're going to be doing the same damn thing with the group in power in South Sudan, is because we believe we owe them a debt of gratitude for having brought us independence. Man, one thing I like about this country, when they had enough of Winston Churchill, surprisingly, they voted him out. Winston Churchill was voted out. So irrespective of what he did for this country, he wasn't so kind to the people of Bangladesh. But what he did for this country, they decided you're as good as your last fight. Amir Khan knows all about that, right? You're as good as your last fight. And they duly voted Winston Churchill out. We need to do that in Africa because we need leaders who will not take the golden shilling, and we need people. I'm not just talking about Africa here. I'm speaking about anywhere in the developing South. That's what they call us. They used to call us the third world. Now they're calling us the developing South. We need people, leaders, who will be protected by the people so that when another Blaise Compaoré in Burkina Faso tries to assassinate a great leader like Thomas Sankara, the people will stop it. That's what we need. We need people power. And so there's a lot of sense that this young group of people out there are making. The people called, what's they called, Destroy? The name of the group who are against global warming, climate change. I am saying we have to understand, extinct, yeah. We need to understand how much this is going to affect us first. And I'm talking about we from back home, where it's hot. It's going to affect us first. When this turns up a notch, this thing that's giving me so much beautiful vitamin D today, when that turns up a notch, who's going to feel it first? The so-called developing South. The areas where there's desert, like Rajasthan, like the Sahara, are going to dry out faster. The population living there is going to have to do two things. Fall back on fighting with other Africans who have farms, the herders I mean, the people who keep camels, sheep, goats, cattle, or they're going to cross the Mediterranean and come here. And they're going to be joining y'all, chasing the same nickel, fighting over the same 10p. And they're going to be joining you all, and you all are going to be the first, I'm included, we're going to be the first to blame them for stealing our resources. We're going to be the first to say they jump the queue and get flats, apartments. We are going to be the first to say They get all their children are using the social services. We can't have a GP's appointment because of all these immigrants. That we're going to be the first to say. You know why? They're going to lean on us first. This problem isn't going to rock up on Jacob, the smog. I'm talking about the smog. And I hope the smog can hear me. This isn't going up. This is going to wash up first and foremost on the doorstep of Jacob Rees-Mogg. This ain't going to bother the smog. It's going to come on your door and my door. Necessarily, we are going to hate the so-called refugees and immigrants first. We're going to hate them. They're going to set us to hate them. Notice this. People who are poor hate the destitute. That's what happens. People who are just poor hating people who are very poor. And that's not how it used to be. We remember how we used to live in the old days. We shared what we had. We shared what we had. The world, the capitalist world is not like that any longer. The world is a world, think of the desert. As the desert expands, the population that lives there crowds into smaller and smaller oases. The population that lives in that desert crowd, and they're going to come into conflict with each other. That's what's going to happen. Similarly, as more refugees come to this country, having successfully made it across the Mediterranean. So, are you... I like to keep a serious discussion. You must... Yeah, I don't like calling them refugees. You're asking a question, let me answer it. You know why my hands are like this? I do not like those words. I don't think you... I need y'all to help me out here because somebody... I need a translation button. I need a translation button. I will put this down because I need my hands. He only saw one, so maybe he thought I did this to him. I was doing this. I don't like the terms. I don't like economic migrants. I don't like... They're human beings. And they deserve respect. And when English doctors, you know, if you go to your GP, you hardly find an English doctor. When they go to Canada and Australia, they're called expats. Oh, they're expat doctors from London, Birmingham. They don't call them what they are. They're economic migrants. That's what they are. Economic migrants. But because that's what they are. But because Canada is white and Australia, well, they became white. Canada wasn't always white. No, and neither was Australia. The fact, and because they have a certain standard of living, they don't feel the weight of the English doctors leaning on them, taking away their jobs. And half of them come here for overseas experience anyway. But all of that is a sidebar just to deal with what I thought my brother was coming with. Because I'm not in the mood for foolishness. I don't come here for foolishness. I misunderstood him and he misunderstood me. What I'm here for is, that's why I don't get into debates. Because you're not going to learn anything if there's a debate. It's ego. And I'm too tired of it. I'm too old for that. I want to discuss what they're doing over there and how it's important to us where we come from. Because the Maldives is going to disappear. And the only people who are going to miss the Maldives are the rich people who go there for their honeymoons. But when they stand on the Maldives and it keeps sinking, then they'll get worried. But the people who live in the Maldives have nowhere else to go. That's not where they honeymoon, it's where they live. So, and because I'm a Muslim, and they're Muslims, of course I'm going to mention them first. So, it's not just about that, but it's about simply this situation concerns us. It concerns us first and foremost. Most of us seem to come from parts of the world which have already turned desert. 90%. Yeah, so it does concern us. If people think I'm taking a biased interest, it's a focus. It's not a biased interest. As a Muslim, I will have a predilection for talking about Muslims, but I am not just doing that. There's the Kalahari Desert in the Namib region. It's also a desert. People live there. They're human beings. They are hunter-gatherers. They may have fewer clothing items of clothing on than I am. They are just as human as I, and their survival needs to be guaranteed. We cannot have people just dying because the desert is increasing, the oceans are rising. Lovely to meet you guys. Assalamu alaikum. Lovely to meet you all. We can't just have that. So this is an issue that is as important to us. I don't want to reiterate what I did 2 weeks ago when I talked about the conflict it's causing. It's causing ethnic conflict in parts of Africa between people who herd animals and people whose farms are being encroached upon. As I said before, these are not gentlemen farmers, they are poor peasant farmers. So when they lose crops to an animal, they lose a lot. However, when they kill someone's bull, cattle, animals, one single animal is worth more than its economic value. For herds of people, animals have, the value is transcending the purely material. And that's what I'm trying to say. Why these issues are affecting the African continent in particular, the place I can talk about more than other places, is because you see the sun we're having today? We're enjoying it, but we remembered last year how long summer lasted. It lasted for an inordinate length of time. That tells you something. There are changes which we are not yet able to see because of this green and pleasant land. We won't see them, but the changes are actually taking place, and they will take place in our lifetime, and if not in my lifetime, all of you are going to have grandchildren soon, and it's going to affect our lives. And as I said, when situations become dire, poor people attack poor people first. Those who are poor have become impatient that people who are poorer are demanding from them, because nobody's going to go to Jacob Rees-Mogg and say, hey, have fewer children. But Jacob Rees-Mogg is going to be going around telling you have fewer children. Nobody tell him to do that, but he come tell you that. And he's going to tell you he has the money to afford it. Ask him how he made his money. Ask all of them, all those big companies who some of the Israelis found out have Holocaust money in the Swiss bank, and Tate and Lyle and some of these companies became rich because of colonialism and slavery. All these big companies. So don't let any of them tell you that that money that they made is from their own back-breaking efforts. It's not. It's predicated on wealth that their parents stole in the colonial period, and the nature of capitalism is such that wealth increases. Once you've got it, you can increase it at the expense of the poor. And we who are poor are going to have to cope with the indigent, and the indigent are going to have to cope with the destitute, and we're going to be hating each other and killing each other while the smog is up there sitting pretty with his dynasty of 6 children in what he calls God's own county, Somerset. I think I've exhausted this topic. To continue further would be to go into the realm of, as I could say, diminishing returns. If anybody has any questions on the subject about what's happening over there, they're free to ask me, or better yet, I'm sure there's stuff that I cannot answer because I haven't finished reading the book. You can go across there and ask them questions. But I do believe this is a noble cause. It's worth further investigations. You see all this discussion about religion? Look, I love religion as much as the next man. But you keep talking and becoming more deeply entrenched in your position. Sit in your echo chamber and your safe space and keep saying, I have the only truth. And then you meet out here and argue and nothing gets solved. We don't advance the argument. I will not become a Christian listening to an evangelist rant at me. He won't become a Muslim if I keep ranting at him. And in the meantime, those people sitting in the police van are kind of laughing their heads off if they knew why they were here. They were here precisely to allow us this amount of latitude so we'll go home and not wear gilet jaune. We won't come back tomorrow wearing gilet jaune, yellow vests. We won't do that. That's what. Now, I'm not pissing on Speaker's Corner. I'm not doing that. And I'm not saying that because I have a vet. Nobody pays me to come here. I am saying that, yes, it's good for humans, and the British Empire has had a long, tried and tested history of knowing how to allow people to let off steam. And this place has been crafted for you and me to let off steam. And I am aware of that. In some sense, I am a part of the problem, but I think it's something you call weapons of the weak. Weapons of the weak are what the disempowered uses in a situation of futility to secure its freedom.
Can I ask a question?
Now,
You know when you said that refugees are a problem?
I want you to quote me correctly. That is, I know that's a soundbite, but I didn't say that.
No. I meant like how we could say that refugees would be a problem. But you do know that in the UK, 81% of the ethnic population is white, and the rest is immigrants.
How many of those ethnic population work in the National Health Service? How many of them are represented working in the National Health Service?
81% white.
Yeah. Go to the hospital right now. Break your leg and go there now.
No, but they're very few, but there's more of them than us. So we don't really provide a competition against them because they're the majority. At the end
Okay,
of the
I'm
day.
with you.
They're the
100%.
majority at the end of the day.
100%.
France
100%.
has more ethnic immigrants than the UK.
But let's not compare as if we are better or worse. I know what you're saying. It's like when some people say, you know, our situation is better or worse. I like the Gilets jaunes thing. I like it because one thing about the French, they don't mess about. They don't. And look, I'm an old man now. I'm about the evolution. You're young. I want you to be about the revolution. I'll repeat that. But we need both. We need the David Attenborough. He's about the evolution. He's going to lean on the system. He'll be moderate. He'll be considered. He'll be calm. He'll be balanced. But he'll get his point across by degrees. He's speaking to a constituency that would not listen to you or to you or to you.
Come on.
But I also need you and you, because there are people here who won't listen to, and the slow lemur that lives in Madagascar is in danger. There are not a lot of people here who won't listen to y'all. But you people here have a constituency. And the Gilets jaunes have a purpose. They wouldn't have been there. Malcolm X would not have existed had the situation not called for a Malcolm X. When I hear stupid people say things like, oh, he spoiled Martin Luther King's revolution, I say no. They listened to Martin Luther King because of Malcolm X. They were so terrified that he was going to bring the pain. They said, let's listen to the good cop. He's bad cop. And that's what they'll play with you all tonight. So I'm asking you all, don't get emotional here tonight. I know the weather's warm and people get a little tetchy. And people are going to troll you. And people are going to heckle and harangue in the crowd. Do not rise, especially when it starts getting dark. Do not get violent. Do not get out of control. We need to move as one. We're not one, but we need to move as one. We're not one, people. I'm not ignorant. I know this. The women here have issues with us as men that I wouldn't understand, and I need to hear from them. The working class here have issues that the rich people walking around here on holiday would not understand, and they gotta listen to them. So we have all kinds of intersectionality standing right here today. All of these voices need to be heard. But what I am saying that people need to do, I'm not saying to be calm and be supine. I'm saying be calm and be still revolutionary, not supine. The thing you should not do is just let people drive over you and tell you that the right way to protest is how they tell you. That's because they want you to do what I'm doing now. Let off steam and go home and feel good about yourself. No, that's not enough. This is just the beginning. And I hope, as the beginning of a baton race, a relay race, I am metaphorically passing this on to somebody else who can take it up. Because I can't do it. I suffer from arthritis. I can't do this. I can't run the whole race. But I know there are young people here like you who understand what I'm saying and will not, as a Muslim like myself, you're not going to make your religion into the only thing you're going to fight for, because you know there are people who are going to take that and divert the revolution somewhere else. And you know that class struggle is not the only thing to fight for, because there are going to be people who are going to take that and divert it somewhere else. And veganism is not the only thing to fight for, because there are people who are going to take it. All revolutions are I'm making up a word now, corruptible. I was going to say subvertible. Corruptible. However, what you need to do is look at the merits of all these revolutions I talk about. Feminism, veganism, Islam, class struggle. Look at all these revolutions and be on your guard that there's nobody who is going to corrupt them. Because all systems are corruptible as long as humans. And I say this to my Muslim brothers, they want to know why I'm not down 100%, always talking every week about Islam. I'll tell you why. I'll state my case plainly. Human beings want anything. If I read this book, which is not the Quran al-Kareem, it's just this book. The moment I interpret it, that's my interpretation of what I've read, based on who I am and what I know so far in life. I may come back to this book in 20 years' time and have a complete reappraisal of said book. And that's what I'm trying to say to people. Why I do not make more sense than I am, right? He's actually agreeing with me. He's saying, preach, brother. Now, I am thinking simply this. I want us to constantly be ombudsmen for whatever revolution we're in. Whatever you're in feminism, question your feminism all the time. Don't let anybody come and say, you know, we're all sisters, because you got exploitative people, middle class people who will do that to you. Right?
Oh, what all these people dressing up in fancy clothes.
He was talking more sense than you. No, wait a minute. He's talking more sense than you. He's making more sense than you. Yo, dog. I don't know which is the dog. That's a yo dog.
Yeah, we're here to be serious.
Yo dog. He's making more sense than you. Slavation. Salvation or slavation? Switch the letters around. Salvation, slavation. Slavation, salvation. He come to bring salvation. Look at him, master and slave. You know, this embarrasses me. As a man from the colonies, this embarrasses me. Look at this. Look at this. That's embarrassing, man. It's embarrassing. Slavation.
All brethren.
Salvation, slavation. Switch the letters around.
That's why we're here
Salvation,
today.
slavation.
Dressed up in fancy dress.
Yeah, that's
Not to
fancy
look
dress.
like clowns.
Look at the weather. Look at the weather. Who's wearing fancy dress? In this heat, who's wearing fancy dress? Exactly. People, in this heat, who's wearing fancy dress? Your dog is more sensible than you. Your dog, listen, that's right, go on, speak. He's making more, the dog is making more sense. You see how they come and spoil stuff? You see what they do? You see what they do? You see what they do? The dog is making more sense than you. The dog had more sense.
Allah can't speak.
The dog had more sense.
Under the bed.
The dog had
Read
more
your
sense.
Quran and you'll see
The
it's
dog
true.
made more sense. Take your master with you.
Nonsense.
Take your master with you. Don't make me start on you. Don't start. Don't make me start on you. Slavation. Salvation or slavation. He said he's an Edomite. He said he's an Edomite. Edom. He told me last week he's an Edomite. Edom.
I did you, and he spelled it
Go with
EDOM.
him. Go
Like
with
I
him.
said last week, this man is unintelligent.
Content over everything.
I have no knowledge.
Delete.
Never trust a man
Sedate.
that dyes his beard
You're
orange.
wasting time. Follow your master.
You need to
Slavation. That is salvation. Slavation. That's not salvation. Slavation. Follow your master. Follow your master. Drink your water. Give him some water. Yeah, okay. Now, I'm sorry for that bit of inspired lunacy behind us, but every now and then the passing cabaret stops for a pause and they underestimate their opposition. I have met with them before. All I want to say to people is this. Every revolution has the ability to devour its own children. I want people to be aware of this. I am for the revolution. I am too old, so I am doing the evolution. I am doing the evolution. but I support revolution. However, what I'm saying to revolutionaries, having been involved on a micro level, is revolutions. I'm being a little bit confused by the noise. Revolutions have the potential to devour their own children. I saw it in Zimbabwe with Robert Mugabe. He came to power in 1980, and as soon as he came to power, they had the problems between the Shona and the Matabele, and Joshua Nkomo versus Robert Mugabe. We know how that turned out. In Iran, in 1979, Ayatollah Khomeini came to power. No sooner as he ascended to power, it was a conflict between Abul Hassan Bani Sadr and Ayatollah Khomeini. Revolutions do have a tendency and ability. So I'm saying to you all here, be revolutionary. But I'm going to tell you something. If you are close to a revolutionary and he says red el principe, he might adopt a maxim that goes like this. Whenever a group of people have caused you to ascend to power, the first people you move against are those people. For the people who can put you in power, likewise are the people who can remove you from power. So what dictators tend to do, dictators who ride revolutions, as soon as they ascend to power, they start liquidating the people closest to them. And I have seen and met with and discussed with so many disenchanted, disillusioned former revolutionaries who were so optimistic about the future of their country when they took power, when they put a particular person in power. A very good example of which would be Eritrea. When after so many years, I'm calling countries that perhaps some people have not heard about. Eritrea is just north by east of Ethiopia. It was a former province. Even to say that is debatable because the Eritreans will never accept that they once were a province of the imperial state of Ethiopia. So I leave that for people to argue about. That said, when Eritrea secured its independence under Isaias Afwerki, that was since the 1990s. Afwerki is still in power. And a large number of the people being abused today in Libya, sodomized, brutalized, and maltreated, I heard sold. I have even heard sold as slaves or for temporary cheap labor. I don't want to dispute that, but I don't want to discount it. What I'm saying is they are running from the same country, Eritrea, once a beacon, like today, Rwanda is a beacon of hope for independent new countries in Africa. So I know there are revolutions that start with all good hope, optimism and ambition, and no sooner they end up becoming the thing they sought to remove. And that is why we need to constantly be vigilant about our revolutions becoming exactly the thing we sought to remove. I think I've exhausted this subject. If anybody has any questions, I can only talk about, with some degree, some modicum of knowledge of parts of Africa, the ones I have quoted, because I have some travel in some of these countries, but I can't talk about Cambodia and Pol Pot. I don't have that much information on that situation. I don't have enough information on what Canada is doing to its Mohawks, the ethnic group that has only recently been given Canadian citizenship in their own country. I don't have enough information on how Australia is treating its indigenous First Peoples, whom we call Aborigines, but I advise everyone here to go away and research how these people are being treated. The Aborigines, again, I'm doing that because I don't like calling people names that they don't like, in particular, are living in the desert. Australia is a continent which is predominantly desert, and just as we're discussing global warming and the overheating of the surface of the earth, so too we have to wonder at the outcome for the Australian First Peoples. So I think all of these things are important, and I think we have to step outside of our religious affiliation, step outside of our racial affiliation, step outside of our class affiliation, step outside of our gender affiliations to see if there is merit in any argument that is proposed by the other side. I'm not going to tell you whom to listen to on the radio, but there are counter-revolutionary people I listen to understand their argument, because I want to know the kind of lies that they're telling us. You've got to listen to them. I'm not saying be taken in. Mind they don't take you in. And I'm sure the people who have bothered to stand around here will not be taken in by such people. But listen to them to see how they craft their argument and see how they fool people. Listen to the people calling in. And listen to the masses of... listen to them who get fooled by these people. And so, my view of life is that you have to have a position, but always be prepared. No sacred cows. Question what's going on, because like I said, once any dogma, any ideology, any position is interpreted by humankind, there's a woman here, so I can't say interpreted by man, by humankind, it's not a hard science anymore. It's not what it was. The minute you interpret something, it becomes something that is viewed through the prism of your experiences. And I think I want to stop here because it's like when you come into a movie. Not at all. Thank you. That's all right. That's cool, man. Y'all keep doing what y'all doing. Yes, sir. So thank you all for your kind attention. I saw somebody I felt like trolling, but I don't want to further mess. We've had enough fun. We've had enough levity. Yeah. So I see somebody over there I should troll, but I think I won't. I don't know where is the man in charge of this. I need to tell him to come take his certainly. I didn't write this, I have to confess. I'm still to finish reading it. Not at all. So that is all I have to say on that subject. If people want me to bring up a different subject, other than that, I can do it. Anyhow, so far, thank you all for your kind attention. Content Over Everything is trying his best to do very sterling work here to separate the truth from the falsehood, and I commend his station to everybody out there. Listen to it. Content Over Everything. Thank you all for your kind attention once more. Bye-bye.
God's justice was poured out in full when Jesus Christ was on the cross of Calvary, when he was suffering the righteous anger of the Holy Lord.
Content over everything. From your humanity.
Man, say it straight. Man, don't listen to BBC. Man, don't listen to ITV.
No, not really. Actually.
Listen.
I've never said that once in my life.
I'm sure you can read your book when you're out there.
No, I've never said that once in my life. Okay, what liberalism is, what it requires in order to be liberative, right? So that's the first question. Yeah. If you look at the works of John Locke and Thomas Hobbes and those guys, yeah, and not just him, Rousseau and others, Montesquieu, all of them, they talk about a state of nature. Okay. Now the state of nature is a primordial state. It's a fictitious state.